All right. So, all right, there we are.
All right.
Perfect. Hold on one second.
So,
All right, guys, we are here with Robert and Matt, and we are going to be talking today about SEO, and we're going to be talking about merchant services. These are the two guys that I deal with, that I work with. Um, we have Matt up on the top here, and we have Robert right here on the bottom for SEO. If you guys have any questions or anything you want to talk about your services or what services that pretty much are required to get seen and what have you, then feel free to put it in chat, and we'll be monitoring the chat itself and see if any of you guys have any questions as far as that. They did leave their information in chat just in case you guys want to get in touch with them or what have you. But we're going to go ahead. We'll start off with Matt, tell you, find out what type of services that you have and what you have to offer and what you're doing for me and what have you. So I'll let you go ahead and take away with that.
Sure. My name is Matt Sutucci. I'm started payments processing and payroll in 2017. And what I do is I get people affordable merchant accounts. And one of my strengths is that I'm a broker. That I can actually use many different kind of risk partners or banks to get people the kind of optimization either in software or in cost. So in particular for Henry, we want to find a payment processing sales operation that is going to partner with his accounting operation and then in his marketing and his review, obtaining reviews. So we're using a particular software to do that. And being a broker, I have those kinds of strengths. But some of my main clients, I'm most referable to are what we call high risk clients. So those are people who can't go get merchant accounts from normal banks. Somebody that sells CBD or cannabis or some of those items, they can't walk into Bank of America and get a merchant account. So they need what we call a high risk account. So they come to someone like me to do it. But what some of my strengths are helping merchants get the optimization that usually mid-sized businesses and large businesses can get, and then getting those prices on merchant accounts that are going to save them a few bucks as they get their sales volume up.
Nice. Now, the reason why I went with you was because you offered lower rates than some of these other ones that I was dealing with. And can you explain your rates as far as
Sure. I'd be happy to. In this case, we're competing with what we call the flat rate programs. You've heard of Square and you've heard of Stripe. And it's actually not hard to beat their rates because they are dealing with more risk than I am. One of the biggest differences is that I get people their own merchant accounts where Square and Stripe, they write everybody who joins in. And this may be shocking to some people, but there's risk for processing companies to do that because there's a lot of fraudulent people out there that want to have a method of charging credit cards fraudulently. They just have a list of stolen credit cards and then they want to run them. So on Square's platform, there's no underwriting to do that, right? You can hop on that tomorrow, but that's part of why their rates are so high. The 2.6 and the 3.5 that you're paying for those guys really can come down 30 to 40 basis points if you're willing to do the underwriting for it.
Yeah, I mean, I did notice that the process of going through everything with you was a lot longer, a lot more checking everything. And it's kind of a good thing just because they want to find out if you're a legitimate business. And I was pretty impressed by that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how merchant processing started. And what made Square kind of a worthy adversary is they said, wow, it's kind of we want to target those new incoming merchants and those new incoming businesses that just want to get something right on paper. They know that usually the processing statements are very confusing, so they offered a flat rate. But the truth is, to get those flat rates, you're paying more because they were asking them to take more risk. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
why they're able to do that.
Nice. Now, is there a minimum as far as transactions or anything else like that somebody has to have for their business or?
Now, legally, no, there's no minimum. But what I recommend is if you're a business that's about $10,000 a month, it's time to probably start moving on from Square and Stripe. You're going to start to see some savings. You can also linchpin your sales operation with a merchant account to find other kind of operations that are going to partner with it, either to do marketing, loyalty programs, or accounting. So that's why it's nice to start talking to somebody about me about $10,000, because all of a sudden I make life easier for those merchants and those businesses.
Yeah, and $10,000 in sales is not a whole lot, but you can save a lot of money with the lower interest rates, finding that out. So, but Robert, talk about yourself. You are doing my website, revamping my website, going out there and having me seen more on Google and the local business. We want to talk about some of the errors that came up on my and how I found Robert basically was I had somebody call me and they told me I had like 87 errors on my website. So when I found that out, they wanted to charge me $1,500 to go out there and fix these errors. And I reached out to Robert on LinkedIn, and I talked to him about it, and he was about a third of the cost to fix all those errors and get that taken care of. So kind of explain what you do, Robert, and what your services are.
Okay, so I do local SEO. Basically, this gets more leads and phone calls to service-based businesses. I specialize in the solar industry. And if your business model can benefit from more phone calls, then you would benefit from investing in SEO. I can only guarantee additional phone calls, more phone calls. I cannot guarantee an increase in revenue because that depends on your sales ability. So if you know you can close calls, I can get you more calls, and consequently, your business will make more money.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the errors he was talking about was citations, like incorrect citations. So basically, citations are just your business information listed on multiple directories. So I pointed them in the right direction, and he was able to solve that problem at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, so that actually helps out. So for those of you that are struggling with the phone calls and people calling you and what have you, then you might want to really take a look at where you're at on Google and where you're ranking, and if you're on the first page or what have you, or if you're on the third page. And that's where Robert can come in and really get you seen. And the whole idea of you getting seen is basically people able to see you on the first page. Nobody really looks at the fifth, the sixth, or the seventh page when they're doing a Google search. They're usually looking at the first or second page, or looking at the reviews and what have you. Speaking of reviews, we actually have somebody else that I'm working with that does the reviews. They're not here today, but we'll get them on a different YouTube podcast and get him to talk about his reviews and how to get more reviews. But as far as the websites, I found out that I had a one-page website, which I thought I had a 5-page website. And Robert pointed that out to me. Kind of explain what that does, Robert, as far as the website and everything else. So.
Yes, certainly. So a big ranking factor is content. The The less content your website has, the less chance it has to rank. So if you only have a one-page website, you have a website with very thin content. What you want to do if you're in that case is beef up your website and create more pages. Each service should have its own page, as well as each service area. And just go into detail on the pages and talk about what your business does and the problems it solves. Keyword research, center each page around a specific keyword, and you have a higher chance of getting ranked for that keyword. So for example, in Henry's case, I will make a service page just for solar panel cleaning and put a lot of content on there, and inevitably it'll rank.
Nice. Somebody had said, when you say reviews, are you talking about those fake reviews? And I simply said, no. Let's talk about that. Matt, you actually are working with the individual that does the reviews and stuff, and you're tying in your system to his system pretty much, right?
That's correct. That's correct. So in this particular case, we're talking about Upswell, who takes reviews, who not only allows the business person to submit a request to receive a review either through text or email, but then circles that review back to you. And you can channel it however you want, whether to Facebook, Yelp, or to Google. My service, when we tie that into a sales operation, in a lot of cases, we put in the sales profiles of people, their name, their email, their phone number, when we're taking a sale. And a lot of that data is collected these days. So what Upsell will do is we'll tie it to the back end of our sales mechanism, what we call a virtual terminal, and we'll make it automating that request very simply so that people don't have to think twice about, oh my gosh, I just made a sale yesterday, I should submit a review. It's something that's going to be automatic and more or less seamless.
Right.
So that helps a business person, especially when they're a solopreneur, right? They're just like you, Henry. They're out in their field and they got 100 things to do. They got one less thing to think about.
Well, when we have it set up, the way we have it set up basically is as soon as we take the payment, the customer is automatically going to get a link for the review through text and email, or email, or both. And if they don't reply to the text or the email, then they have, I guess, what you call a drip system, where a couple of days later it'll remind them again to leave a review and increase that. You definitely want to be able to have reviews constantly. You just can't have 5 reviews at one time. Google really looks at that. And so as you go out there and start getting reviews, and they had Henry at Upswell basically showed me a graph where it went like this, and all of a sudden it just shot way up. And he said, no, that's not what you want to see. You want to see something that gradually goes up, because Google loves that. They love that content. They love the fresh content. And that's exactly, how we're trying to get it structured. So Robert obviously is going to be doing some stuff on the back end of my website to where, it helps out there. So, but go ahead.
Does anybody have any questions? I can't see the comment section.
Yeah, I got the comment section right here on my live on my YouTube. So that's just a separate page here. Taryn Lewis says, I've seen a lot of businesses whose reviews have grown, but they are not real, and sometimes they're not accurate. So what do you say about that? About the fake reviews? Because I ran into that problem where I've had solar panel companies come in and they black hatted the system, and you did a search on every single city near you, and they were at the top of the list. And I did see that their name on there probably at least 40 times. And that really hurt the business because they're up on top, but the number that you actually called was a fake number. Is there something that you could, look at that and kind of avoid situations like that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so those techniques, if you're faking your reviews, it'll only lead to temporary results. A lot of people think they can outsmart all these engineers at Google. Their algorithms are very smart and they can detect that. So it'll be temporary gains, and you'll have to constantly make new Google business profiles if you do that. You just have to get reviews the honest way. There's no other way around it. Do good business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I did notice they're no longer there. So Google obviously caught them, and now they're no longer in service. So, do you have a lot of competition there, Matt? As far as you explained that you're a broker. So, do you just try to find the best resources, or how does that work?
So, as far as I compete, I try to position myself uniquely in messaging, but I do have a ton of competition, and I feel like I'm competing all the time. Whether it's against Clover representatives or whether it's against people who, Stripe. Rob probably puts together a bunch of e-commerce websites too, and that's a big part of my business. And I'm competing against Stripe, and I'm competing against other people who sell what we call virtual terminals for those guys. I try to position myself uniquely in messaging and in service. So I focus on a couple of things. Reviews are a part of that. Providing great service is another. I always felt like if somebody has an opportunity to refer me, that's going to be the best way to get leads for me because I know they're qualified and I know that we're probably going to follow through to the end of the process, right? I do enjoy getting leads and I field them all the time. I had mentioned before, I do have concerns when people just reach out to me, cold call me, because I've got to be very cautious about fraud. But I do think about reviews and I do think about my competition, which is why I often talk about high risk, or I often talk about how we could position someone differently, whereas my competition usually says, we're going to try and be the low price leader every time, where I'll talk about something else. And that's how I feel like I'm different.
Yeah, and the reason why I went with you was just because I was paying really super high rates with Stripe, and I was with them for a long time. Not that they're a bad company, it's just the fact that and I never got a chargeback with them ever, which was really, really nice. But when you're paying $50 merchant fees, $75 merchant fees for big ticket items, it's I'd rather have that in my pocket than give it to somebody else, to be honest.
It sure adds up. That's right, Henry.
Yeah, it does. So as far as Google, the local leads, Robert, is that something that you constantly have to be working on just to make sure that your phone is ringing, that stays on top, your listing stays on top, or is that something that you just a one and done deal, or how does that work?
It should be worked on throughout most of the year for sure, but it doesn't have to have a consistent ongoing contract forever. That's why I usually do 6-month contracts, and that's enough time to bring results and have the results stay there for a while. Eventually, if your competition starts putting in work in SEO, they could overtake you if you're not as well putting in work. It all depends on really how much your competition is trying and how good the SEO is done. But usually it should last for quite a while after it's stopped.
Now, is it something that where you can sit there and say, "Hey, I'm going to pay for ads and do the pay-per-click to get noticed," or organically, can you do that? As you're working on the website itself, try to get organic leads and so forth. Is that hard to do, or is that something that has to be done?
So it is recommended for a lot of people if they want to see leads right away to add a PPC campaign onto the SEO retainer. SEO does take at times 1 to 3 months for it to really start working to see effect. So if you really need those phone calls fast, you have to do PPC.
So pay-per-click is pretty much the way to go at first, and just to get out there and so forth. Now, when you go out there and you say, for example, you pay for other services. So like Yelp or Nextdoor or all these other services. Does Google recognize that as far as your reviews and everything else like that? Does that work in your favor, or does that hurt you? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Google considers reviews from multiple sources such as Yelp, Nextdoor, Apple Maps, Bing. It takes account into all of that, but the most important factor, obviously, because Google's platform is Google reviews. Um, that's what you want to emphasize: getting the most reviews in, and that'll have the most impact in improving your rankings.
nice. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat here on YouTube, and these guys will be more than happy to answer your questions there. And just put them in there, ask the question, and I'll be reading them off as I'm looking at them here. So Matt, do your prices ever go up?
So no, but let me qualify that. My rates will stay the same.
Okay.
Now, because I use a lot of different risk providers, some of them will try to add on, they'll try to tack on some kind of thing at the end of the year or whatever. I generally opt out in every case of that for all my clients. What changes, though, oftentimes is the price of goods that they're selling. So, as their prices are moving up, my rates stay the same, but that usually means that the overall costs are going up too for merchant processing because we're processing at a higher volume.
Okay, got you. Is there a certain limit of processes that you have to have a month?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay. So somebody that say has one employee working by themselves can use your services, and it'd be the same as somebody that had 500 different.
It would absolutely be the same. What I will tell you this, if someone is looking, to really get the great prices, if you want the best deals, you're processing higher volumes. I obviously the prices that I give to somebody who's doing 20,000 a month are great, but they're probably not going to be as good as the same guys that are processing 100,000 or more a month either. So because they're processing a higher volume, they generally get a volume discount. But in all cases, we're going to beat Square and Stripe just because it's easy to do so.
Because you can. Okay, so Petra Shred to You Incorporated says Thrive gives me 15 pages for her website. Is that common there, Robert, to have 15 pages? Should you have more? Should you have less? Help us out on that.
So it all depends on multiple factors such as the services that you offer, your service areas, and if you have blog posts. There's some websites that are thousands, tens of thousands of pages because they have a ton of content, explaining different nuances within their vertical. But I suppose a better response would be, what retainer are you paying? Are you paying, $100 for 15 pages, which you'll never find that deal, but that would be an amazing deal? Are you paying 10,000?
Yeah, gotcha. Tara Lynn says, to clarify, reviews from other platforms help the ranking on Google?
Absolutely. Google considers reviews from multiple sources, basically all the credible sources you can think of worth getting reviews on. Google considers. Again, Google reviews are on top, though. Those are the most important.
Now, local SEO. Okay, I want to talk about that for a quick second. We were talking about, they were showing me, another company was showing me heat maps, where I ranked and how I ranked and what have you. So explain that real quick as far as heat maps and local SEO.
So those are what we call grids, geogrids. You can use a company like trackrite.com or brightlocal.com. Those are two of the most popular tools for geomapping or geogrid tracking. Basically, it just mimics a Google search in a very specific location of the keyword that you set. And it'll do the same thing for a let's say 10 miles square with about 50 points within that square.
I see. So if you want to be able to rank for a certain keyword in a particular area, then you want to make sure that you are in that area. And those are a couple of the sites that you had mentioned that they can go and check and see where they're ranking. Is it for certain keywords or?
Yeah, so basically it's just a way of tracking and monitoring progress. So you want to set that before you start doing SEO, so you can essentially prove results and that you're ranking in these areas for the specific keywords. Setting these up itself is not going to actually improve SEO. It's just a performance tracking tool.
Okay, so basically it's just a performance to kind of show you, so you know where you're at that particular time.
Absolutely. So that when you make changes, you know what works, you know what has impact, and you can constantly improve.
Yeah, I mentioned to you when I first started my business, I hired a lot of people for SEO, and it was working. It was working great, but I must have had over 10 different companies that I was working with, spending a lot of money, but I never knew which company actually was working because I'm not the type of person to go out there and track that and so forth. So now you're creating the new website for me where you're able to track where everything's coming from. Now, is that part of the service, or is that an extra cost on that for you to be doing stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the service. It's a done for you service. I will take care of everything and do whatever it requires to improve your rankings locally in your region and your service areas, and show you proof that I'm improving the rankings.
Nice. So, so you obviously be able to have a report, take a look at that, and compare the difference, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can even set it up so that the report is automatically sent weekly or biweekly.
Nice. Now, Matt, we want to get back to you here as far as working with other platforms, say like QuickBooks and all that. Does your system integrate with that? And at the end of the year, come tax time, obviously, does that company provide the reports and what you made and all that? Can you explain that?
So let's take the example of QuickBooks. A lot of people use QuickBooks Online to do their kind of bookkeeping and accounting procedures. And what we'll use is a specific virtual terminal, sales terminal, that every sale that is done will populate the QuickBooks sales ledger. So that it makes it easy for them to do their bookkeeping day in or day out, or week in and week out. Now you're still using QuickBooks for the reporting, but all the data that goes from every sales entry will populate the sales ledger. So you don't have to look at one interface and put it on the other interface. It'll just populate it for you, which is great for those solopreneurs, those people who are out there pounding usually doing the labor at the same time they're making the sale and have to do the accounting at the back end.
Nice. Now, as far as the services themselves, I know that I have something coming in the mail. The readers and stuff, are those very, very expensive to get and to use? And
no, so yeah, I mean, I usually provide them free. For someone who gives me an account, they just want a mobile reader like that, or a sales terminal that sits on their desk, I usually give them away. But generally, if you find them, their costs are anywhere between $100 to $250, maybe $300 for top ones. But which is why, I kind of like the segue to talk about, if people are paying for a lease for their sales equipment, those are generally rip-off deals. I would just ask to buy them straight out if somebody's involved in a lease.
No, I actually bought a brand new reader that cost me $280, and I didn't know how to set it up. So it's still back here in the box and brand new. And I just didn't know how to set it up. So I'm like, and I actually got that from Stripe, and tried to use it, but I had no help. There was no there's customer service there, but they were like, "Oh, go to this website and you can just follow this," and they sent me a link, but it didn't help. But yeah, so that's for something like that. Do you have customer support and all that for if anything
Yes.
was to happen?
This is one area. Having your own merchant account from a true provider it gives you a great advantage. You're going to get the resources of customer service. There's usually tech specialists. There's usually onboarding specialists. In your case, Henry, there's going to be someone who walks through the whole gateway with you, so you can take sales. How is it going to integrate with QuickBooks? How it's going to integrate with Upswell? You're going to have a team. Unfortunately, for Stripe and Square and those guys, they don't invest a lot in that kind of stuff. Most of their correspondence happens through email, or a fact sheet. You don't get a lot of that from those guys. They're built quick, so you can get started quick, and after that, you don't get a lot of help.
Petra says, "Does your software keep the credit card information and charge after the job is complete?"
So yes, what we're talking about is loading and saving sales profiles. And that's a popular topic. We call it tokenization because it'll save the name, it'll save the client, but it'll tokenize the credit card number so that you have it on file and can use it later. Now, if it's something that you schedule, if you want to schedule or automate it, which is often happens in subscription services. If you have a gym membership or if you belong to a club and have dues, you can automate those kinds of things, save the sales profile, tokenize the credit card, and it'll just execute month in, month out, week in, week out, whatever you set it up for. But there are a lot of different software that will save that sales profile for you so that you can use it later if you want to.
Well, for example, I do my just residential customers every 6 months. So if I was to take a credit card over the computer and get everything charged or through the reader. So what you're saying is that information is saved. So am I able to use that automatically 6 months down the road, or do I have to go back out there and,
Okay, so let me make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
In the event, we can set it up so that you will have an automated process that will execute a charge at a given time at a duration it's up to you. We can set that up. There's also just the fact that you can have, a credit card profile that's just stored on tokenized so that maybe they call for an additional use, or maybe they have an extra service and they're like, "Oh, you got my credit card on file." And you're like, "Yeah, I do." And you could just run the charge one time. So you have both of those options generally in those kind of software platforms.
Okay, great. And, the software that I have, that is, you can do a lot with that software. Kind of explain what you could do with merchant processing and the software that you're dealing with.
So sure. So important for you, Henry, I think is one, it's got to be mobile because you're going to be at clients' houses. You're going to be out quite a bit. It's got to travel with you on your phone. It's got to be accessible from anywhere. It's got to be able to run credit cards in person and possibly send invoices if you need to collect 50% up front or whatever. I think the big part about it is making sure that it's a reliable mobile option and that it's going to make life easy for you after the sale. What are the things it's going to do, like populate your QuickBooks account or send those automated reviews. And that was kind of why we started leaning towards the software that we did. But yes, it involves a mobile reader so that you can swipe or dip or chip or take, the Apple Pay situation in person at someone's house or someone's business. And you will be able to store credit card profiles and then run them later if need be.
And that was another question is, are you able to use all credit cards for that? American Express, Discover?
All of them. Every single one. And I would encourage a lot of people have kind of they're afraid of American Express because it costs a little bit more. And I understand why. American Express costs a little bit more, and some people opt out of that. In most cases, I tell them don't be worried about it because unless Most of the time when people are using American Express, it is a higher volume transaction. You're getting more money from that situation than you would in any other card.
Oh,
American
that's
Express or commercial payments, they have higher volumes. We want to accept those kinds of payments and not frown upon them, right?
no, this right here, my American Express cards. Believe me, I use them all the time.
Right.
Brand new. So, but it does work. Zane Cushing says, Henry, so this is not the clover you had. I don't get what you're saying there, Zane. Retype it. Maybe there's a typo though. But
Clover is a POS system that I provide, but
okay.
It's a very popular. It's kind of one of those, came out in about 2012, very chic. You'll see it at coffee shops and you'll see it at, over the kind of white border, very nice looking. It's actually the first POS system that had an Android base and has an app unit, so you can install additions to it. So it's a very popular system since about 2012.
Yeah, no, I had the smaller one. It was just looked like the little square one where you just put your credit card right up on top and the reader read it. And then I went to a bigger one, but never got that one working. So, so the credit card reader. Yep. And so now as far as Google and your services, Robert, what can you give as far as people here on YouTube, as far as the services that you provide, so they know exactly what they're kind of dealing with or what they can go for, and I know for me, it's just trying to get the phone calls to come in, right? And we've talked about that. We talked about, getting these phone calls coming in on a daily basis. 15, 20 calls would be beautiful. Doesn't happen. And in the solar panel cleaning business, I'm finding out, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now, to where one day you may have 0. The next day you may have 7, and all of a sudden it's just like you're trying to figure out why and how are people calling you just in one day and asking for your services, and then the next day there's nothing. Is there something that I'm missing there?
Well, it could be seasonality, and there's also many ways that someone could find your phone number from your website ranking. Are they finding your number from your website on the snack pack, which is the first 3 results in the Google Maps section when you search a business, or are they finding your website through a piece of content that you made? So just rank for more related terms that your client base would search for. Top of funnel, bottom of funnel, rank for all these terms, and you should consistently see more calls. But there is no real way to predict or consistently get a steady stream of calls every single day, because I can't control when people need the solar panels. It's just human nature.
Right. I do notice as it gets hotter, summertime, gets close summertime, and I was looking at my numbers for the months of May, June, July, and August. And obviously those months were great for me. And then we looking at December, January, and February, where those months were a little slower. And that's where I kind of have to, this is where I really want to take off as far as making sure that everything is optimized, especially during the off season. So when it comes down to, people doing that search and everything else, that, your company's being found. That's the whole point. Believe me, when you're up on top and you're on the first page, it's incredible, because you're getting a lot of people calling you. I was actually giving a lot of jobs away in June and August because I had so much work. And but then I said, well, what about the off season? Because I remember last year, and I'm trying to prepare for that. And that's where you guys come in, to where we make things a little bit smoother, I guess.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on the consistencies of calls a little bit. I'm going to use a past client as an example. He was a hotel owner, and every single Sunday and Monday, there was a steep drop in calls and website traffic. And that was just normal because people aren't booking hotels on Sunday and Monday. So every single Sunday and Monday, you would get significantly less calls than the rest of the week. And depending on your business model, that's just a normal thing.
Okay, so nothing to worry about as long as you're on top of it. And obviously you're going after certain keywords where people can find you and what have you. And obviously the reviews are going to help. And I don't know about credit card transactions, if that makes a difference or not, but anything to help out to get you ranked even higher.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do know, I had to send out some statements today, for equipment, buying bigger equipment. And man, everything has to be pretty much itemized. And, I'm here calling my tax guy and saying, I need this, and this. And it's just some of the things that you got to prepare yourself for. So it's always good to have the right equipment, to put everything in there, make sure it's all filed away correctly. So when they do need it, you pretty much could give them that information and just make things a lot easier. So, well, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. If anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to ask. I did put their information on the chat here on Zoom. Hopefully you guys can see it and get their information. If not, you can just give me a call and I'll be more than happy to forward Robert's information and Matt's information and go from there. And hopefully you guys can use some of their services and whatnot. I appreciate you guys coming on today. It was pretty good.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, you bet. So with that being said, guys, we are going to call it a night, and we will catch you guys on the next video. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Talk to you on the next one. We'll see you guys. Peace.
Later.